back to you all to the Compass Positivity lecture. Well, in today's lecture, we will be discussing totally on the topic like criteria of a good research problem, literacy review and its importance, element of a research proposal, similarly, proposal for funded research, meaning of a hypothesis, type of a hypothesis, role of a hypothesis in the research. So let's start with the criteria of a good research problem. Well, a good research problem must include the following criteria. The first criteria is significance to the discipline. Yeah, of course, a problem which the researchers is selecting should have significance to the profession or discipline. Okay, a researcher's problem is significant for a discipline when it is directed to develop or refine the body of a professional knowledge. Okay, originality is another important criteria of a good research problem. Originality. Every research should be new and unique in itself. Okay, therefore, it is the responsibility of the researchers that innovations knowledge is used for selecting a research problem so as to extend the growth of the existing body of the knowledge in professions. Okay, another criteria here we have is that feasibility. Yes, of course, feasibility is another essential considerations of any research project. Okay, a research should be feasible in terms of a time, availability of the subject, facilities, equipment, and money, as well as ethical considerations. Okay, administrative support. Many research required administrative supports. Financial and psychological support is essential to conduct any type of a research. Okay, therefore administrative support is another important criteria of a good research problem. Okay, similarly, another criteria here we have is that peer support. Many research ideas have failed because the researchers did not receive any peer support. A climate of shared interest among the professional members promote research activity in this smooth manner. Okay, availability of subject is another important criteria. Sometimes the potential subject may not meet this study criteria or may be unwillingly to participate in this study or may be ready or already participating in another study. Therefore, the availability of a subject should be well assured in advance. Okay, research competency is another criteria. Here we have a research problem can only be feasible if it is in accordance with the research competency. Okay, a researcher should be capable to handle a given research topic. Ethical soundness is another criteria. Here we have the research problem. The research problem selected should be clearly by the ethical commitment without undue hardness. Okay, a very important topic of a research cannot be considered feasible until and unless it is in accordance with the ethical guidelines. Okay, solvable is another important criteria. Here we have only a research problem that is solvable is considered to be good. Okay, a research should minimize the chance of insolvable problem. Okay, this aspect of the problem may pose high liquidity, hence a research should ensure the solvability of a problem that is selected. Okay, current is another important criteria. A good research problem must be based on the current problem or issue, need of professions, okay? Thus, the result generated will be of more use. Furthermore, more numbers of the professions will be interested in the research conducted on the current issue of their professions, okay? Interesting. Interesting is another criteria. Here we have a research problem must be as per the motivations of the research, and it should be of the knowledge to the researchers, okay? Thus, our researchers will be conducting with a full enthusiasm and not merely for its accomplishment, okay? Clear and unambiguous is another criteria. Here we have the research problem selected should be clear in its ability to reflect or give clue regarding the various aspects of the methodology available. Okay. Similarly, there are many other criteria of our good research problems like empirical and verifiable, relevant, systematic, and many more. Now, let's study about the literacy review and its importance. So, meaning of literacy review. In simple terms, literacy means the work you consult in order to understand and investigate your research problem, okay? Literacy review also indicates that you should summarize the broad content of a research article or study and indicates clearly any leakage without study in the field, okay? The analysis of a previous study or previous knowledge for knowing the research totally in detail is simply known as literacy review, okay? After selecting a topic or a particular topic of a research, the researcher should study different journal, periodical, newspaper, published and unpublished bibliography, books, etc. to collect or gather the information about the selected topic. This process is known as literacy review. Well, different scholars have given the definitions of literacy review. According to Nicholas Williman, in 2006, literacy review is a summary and analysis of a current knowledge about the particular topic or the areas of inquiry. Okay. Similarly, according to P. Haywood in 1996, a literacy review is a process. Yeah, it's a process of locating, obtaining, reading and evaluating the research literacy in the area of your interest. In the area of interest, you want to conduct the research, okay? So, summary of a previous study is simply known as literacy review, okay? Now, let's study about the importance. What are the importance of literacy review? Well, the first importance of literacy review here we have is that to know the research conducted in the chosen field. Yes, of course, literacy review plays a vital role. It plays an important role in identifying issues, okay, on which research were conducted in the past. It helps researchers to identify issues and it also helps to prevent the duplications in the research work, okay? Similarly, the another importance of literacy review here we have is that to identify gap. Yes, of course, a literacy review helps to identify the gap. Our researchers can identify the area of contradictions in particular sector which is known as research gap, okay? These identifications of gap can then taken as a topic for further research, okay? Similarly, the another importance of literacy review here we have is that to develop theoretical framework, okay? One of the most important part of a literacy review is that it is provide basis for developing a detailed theoretical framework. Theoretical framework then further helps in formulations of hypotheses. Okay. To develop research design is another importance of literacy review. Here we have a literacy review guides. It helps to guide the resources in deciding variable, measuring tool, and the technique, procedures, etc. for the researchers. As such, it assists in the development of a research design. Okay. To update on current issue. A literacy review is instrumental in finding out current issues, empirical or theoretical issues of a particular area of the research. Okay. These issues are constantly or consequently changing issue that come inside or eyes of a researchers through literacy review. Okay. To assess the success of a various research design. Literacy review is the measuring instruments that can be used to evaluate the result of various research design. Okay. To update on current issues. Literacy review helps to update on the current issues. Okay. Yeah, that's it. I just hope you all understand the importance of literacy review. Now, let's study about the element of a research proposal. What are the elements of a research proposal? Well, the first element here we have is that title. Yes, of course. As we have already studied or listened that first impression is the last impression. Yeah. In this sense, title provides first impressions of the proposal. Okay. Thus, the researchers or the research should prepare suitable title for the research. Okay. Title should be complete and reflect the content of the research study. As far as possible, titles should be short and descriptive. Having said that, your title should serve as a mini obstacle of your research and thus should put important words first. Okay. Another element of a research proposal here we have is that background of a study or introductions. Okay. Once the title is attractive, then here we need to prepare for the background of study. Okay. The background of a study is perhaps the most important element of a research proposal. Okay. The background is a part of a research report that provides reader with the background informations for the research report in the paperwork. Okay. Its purpose is to establish a framework for the research so that the reader can understand how it is related to other research. Okay. Background of a research incorrupt the informations like background of a problem that a researcher aims to study. Similarly, general informations and descriptions about the research title. Informations regarding questions of interest in the topic, relevancy of the proposed study. Similarly, the another element here we have is that statement of the problem. So, statement of the problem. A problem describes the content for the study and it also identifies the general analysis approach. Okay. The main focus is given to the statement of the problem, which is being investigated or tested. In stating the research problem, one must consider the following elements like problem of any areas, relationship between variables, and the study. Theoretical framework is another important element. A theoretical framework reflects to the structure that can hold or support a theory of a research strategy. Okay? It totally explains the relationship between variables under the strategy, thereby developing the background for the statement of the problem. A theoretical for the statement of a problem. A theoretical framework includes the informations like a brief summary of a literacy that is closely related to the strategy being reported. Okay? Variable considered in the research and the relationship between this variable. Okay? A statement of a hypothesis or questions is another important element of a research proposal. Okay? A hypothesis simply represents a declarative statement of a relations between two or more variables under the strategy. Okay? A research questions, as the name itself suggests the structures in the form of a questions and suggests a particular relationship between variables. Okay? Both are testable, explain on that are proposed before the methodology of research is defined. Okay? Definitions of terminology is another element of a research proposal. Okay? It is imperative that both technical and non-technical terms used in research are defined clearly. Okay? In this regard, the definitions of terminology is another important primary element of a research proposal that helps to understand the key research terminologies. Okay? Research methodology is another important element of a research proposal. Well, research methodology element term is often termed as the heart. It is the heart of a research proposal. In this reference, some aspect of a research methodology should be described in much detail as possible. Okay? Significance of this strategy. The elements indicates that relevance of a research. It showcases that how and why the particular research will play a significant role in refining, reviewing, and extending present knowledge. Okay. Another element here we have is that limitations of the research. Yes, of course. Potential weakness of the strategy that have been almost impossible to avoid or minimize during the strategy are termed as the limitations of the strategy. Okay? Or very few limitations of a strategy, such as small sample size, which may not represent the total populations, variations in finding over time due to changes in the behaviors of the sample. Okay? Similarly, the last element here we have is that reference. Yeah, of course. List of reference sources should be presented alphabetically. Okay? It is important to note that only reference that is cited in the text should be included in the reference list. APA guidelines for the development of a reference is important. Okay? Now, let's study about the proposal for funded research. In addition to the information required in a research proposal for an academic degree, a proposal to do funded research required further information covering cost, personnel, time frame, expected output, and other related issues. Okay? The first funded is that budget. Yes, of course, a detailed indications of the funds needed to undertake the research. Okay, there are many categories of caste. They are often listed in the applications form issued by funding bodies. Okay, equipment and instruction is another proposal for funded research. A detailed list of all equipment and instruments like computer, journeying vehicles, video camera, tape recorder, experimental equipment, and measuring instruments should be furnished along with the budget required. If these have to be hired or procured, okay? Research personnel and your qualification is another proposal for funded research. The funding agency are interested in knowing the competence and qualifications of the research staff to be involved in the research project. Okay, time frame is another purpose for funded research. Okay, the proposal has to be specifically prepared and submit a time frame detailing all research activities in a bar chart and a sequence of their occurrence. Okay, I just hope you all understand the purpose for funded research. Now let's study about the meaning. What are the meaning of hypothesis? Well, hypothesis is a statement that shows the guess relationship between independent and dependent variables. Okay, hypothesis formulations require basis. Okay, hypothesis is generated through a number of ways, but usually the results of a process of inductive reasoning where observations leads to formations or formulations of the theory. Okay, a hypothesis should be testable and realistic. Well, a hypothesis proposed or indicates a relationship between two or more variables. Okay, in common use, a hypothesis refers to a provisional ideas whose merits require evaluations. Different scholars have given the definitions. Different scholars or authors or researchers have given the definitions of a hypothesis in different sense. Well, according to Franz and Kerlinger in 1986, a hypothesis is a conjectural statement that implements a state or relationship between two or more variables. Okay? Similarly, according to John W. Creswell, a hypothesis is a formal statement that presents expected relationship between dependent and independent variables. Okay, so simply in conclusion we can say that a hypothesis is a statement about the relationship between two or more variables which needs to be investigated for its truth or development of a theory. Okay, now let's study about the type of a hypothesis. The first type here we have is that directional hypothesis. Yes, of course. The directional hypothesis indicates the particular directions of the expected relationship between two variables. Okay. This relationship could be stated in a positive or the negative form. Okay. Let's take one example. Younger workers are less motivated than the older workers. Okay. Similarly, the another type here we have is that non-directional hypothesis. The non-negative hypotheses are formulated when there are no clue available about the positive or negative relationship between two variables. Hence, these hypotheses do not indicate any directions of relationship. Okay. Let's take one example. There is no difference or there is a difference between work attitude of the industry and agricultural workers. Okay. Null hypothesis. It is also known as zero hypothesis. Okay. The null hypothesis is a proposition that states a definite or exact relationship between two variables. Okay. It states the population's correlations between two variables is always equal to 0. That the difference in the mean of a samples and populations is 0. Okay. In general, the null statement is expressed as no relations between two variables or no difference between two groups. Okay. It is always denoted by as 0. That is null hypothesis. Okay. The last one type of hypothesis here we have is that alternative hypothesis. The alternative hypothesis is a statement expressing a relationship between two variables or indicating difference between the two groups. Okay. It is exactly opposite of the null hypothesis. It is always denoted by H1. That is alternative hypothesis. Okay. Let's take one example. If the researchers want to test whether the training increases productivity or not, then he or she can formulate the hypothesis as follows. S0, that is null hypothesis, effective training does not increase productivity of employers. Similarly, alternative hypothesis, that is H1, represents effective training increase the productivity of employers. And statistic null and alternative can be indicated as H0 and H1. H0 indicate no significant difference between samples and populations mean, whereas H1, that is the alternative hypothesis, indicates there is significant difference between samples and the populations mean. Okay. Now, let's study about the role of a hypothesis in research. Hypothesis plays very important role in undertaking research work. Okay. The first role here we have is that select required fact. Yes, of course, a researcher comes across many factors during study. Okay, but researcher should confirm the required fact. Hypothesis helps to the researchers in selections of relevant facts regarding the problem. Okay. Confirm and disconfirm theories. Hypothesis adds the new knowledge in the existing knowledge by confirming or disconfirming a particular theories or proposition. Okay. Determining the type of a data needed. Yes, of course. It determines the type of a data needed, like qualitative and quantitative, and primaries and secondaries for an investigations. Okay. Or inquiries, as suggest the most appropriated instruments for data collections. Okay. Directions of research is another important role. Well, it gives new knowledge and directions to the researchers. It directs the researchers to know about the problem and its cause. It also provides directions about the research designs, natures of data, and many more. Similarly, another important role of hypothesis in research is suggest most appropriated tools for analysis. Yes, of course. Different natures of data and objectives of research demands different statistical tools for analysis of such data. Okay. Hypothesis suggests appropriated tool for analysis of the data. Okay. Another role here we have is that provide framework for drawing the conclusion. Yes, of course. Hypotheses are developed in a sequential form. So, it provides a sequence and shows importance of matters. Researchers can draw conclusions in the same manners. Thus, it helps to draw conclusion while preparing reports. Okay, act as a bridge. Theory is the source of a hypothesis formulations. Okay, hypothesis leads to scientific investigations. So, hypotheses act as a bridge between theory and the investigations. Okay. Yeah, I just hope you all understand the role of research hypothesis. Yeah, that's it. Have a good day. Take care. Stay safe.